and it's a ghost town.
Yeah.
I mean, D.C. sucks right now.
No,
Sorry.
it's not
I
nice.
love D.C., and I say D.C. sucks because I want to make it better.
My guest today is Larry O'Connor, host of The Larry O'Connor Show on WMAL in Washington, D.C.
Pleased to be your guest. And what a beautiful place you have.
It is quite wonderful.
Thank you.
I think
yes.
that this decorating is
just
phenomenal.
finished a cocktail. I'm sorry you weren't able to see that part of the whole guest experience.
Yes,
but
yes.
It was quite impressive.
Generally speaking, we try to keep the alcohol off of the air.
I think you can do better than Popov vodka, to be honest with you. I thought Heritage had a better budget than that, but it's not going to. We'll go a little Tito's next time.
Sure, for sure,
All
for
right.
sure. So let's talk about our
He
shared...
really wants to move it along now.
Let's talk about our shared home.
He is so getting fired.
Washington, D.C.
You put O'Connor on? Yes.
Washington, D.C. is a phenomenal place with some relatively poor leadership.
Yes.
So what are we looking at when we look at Washington, D.C.'s leadership?
Oh, my gosh. Are you talking about at the district level, the district
I am talking
council,
about
and the
the
mayor,
districts, yes.
so-called mayor? Well, listen, this is one-party rule is the most corrupting thing in any representative democracy, and certainly in America. And by the way, I know it's like, oh, the Democrats are in charge and they're the problem. No. One-party rule is the problem.
Right.
My in-laws are in Oklahoma. Oklahoma is pretty much run by the Republicans at this point. They got major problems because there's no real opposition. And that's the problem in the District of Columbia. There is no alternate voice. There is no alternate voice at all, and it becomes corrupt. Corrupt in the very old-fashioned sense, in that there are people making money in that town in politics because they're in politics. That's the old-fashioned kind of corruption. But there's also this corruption of decay.
Right.
A corruption of just, we're going to win anyway. We can pretty much do. I mean, does anyone think Muriel Bowser is not going to be the mayor for another term? Of course. And so you have this level of corruption in complacency, where she can pretty much do whatever she wants and no one holds her accountable. Now, D.C. is very unique, though, in that there is supposed to be federal government oversight. They do have to answer to Congress for certain decisions that they make, except that's also the same party. And so there's no accountability there. It's one of the reasons why I'm sort of championing the idea of Republicans getting the majority. I know everyone wants the Republicans to be in the majority because they don't like the idea of Nancy Pelosi digging her talons into that gavel, and I'm with you on that as well. But really, just from a local standpoint in Washington, D.C., I want some real oversight.
Right.
I want Mayor Bowser and the district council to be accountable to somebody, because they're certainly not accountable to the voters.
Right.
So I think that's the root of the real problem that we have there. And we've seen it certainly play out times 100 during the pandemic and the anti-science, anti-freedom decisions that were arbitrarily made by that body and by the mayor, but also the reaction to the riots of 2020. If you walk around, I feel, when did you move to D.C.?
I moved here 3 years ago.
3 years, okay. So you got one good year.
I got one good year, and then COVID. It was awful.
And I used to, when I moved here 10 years ago from California, and everyone's like, oh my God, that's a terrible city. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
I love Washington. It was, but you want to tell everybody out in the rest of the country, oh, it's terrible here. We hate Washington. It's a fantastic place to live. It's a fantastic place to work. Great place to go to dinner.
Yeah.
Great place. If I was your age again and I was like trolling the bars at downtown, I'd be having a blast. And then it wasn't just the pandemic. Honestly, I think it was the protests. It was the protests that really took it over the edge. Shut down businesses. The message was sent that we don't respect the rule of law. In fact, we literally take a knee to the people who are breaking fundamental laws of Western civilization. No matter where you stand on criminal justice reform and on, I don't think there's anyone, for the most part, in the body politic that didn't recognize that what happened in Minneapolis was a crime of some sort. That's how our justice system is supposed to play out. So it isn't even about the issue. These were opportunists during a political year of a presidential election who decided to terrorize the major cities of this country. And in D.C., they acquiesced. And businesses were closed, shut down. They're still closed. And you go down to D.C. right now, yeah, the pandemic was part of it, but I really think it was that. And it's a ghost town. I mean, D.C. sucks right now.
No,
Sorry.
it's not
I
nice.
love D.C., and I say D.C. sucks because I want to make it better.
Right, you say D.C. sucks because you love it. You want your city to be a place where people want to come and want to live.
I do.
And I mean, one of the things that you've talked about briefly is this protesting, but it's not just that. You look around, there's rampant homelessness, carjackings are on the rise. We just had recently a vaccine mandate that was just removed after a month.
Right.
It caused all these issues. It seems like there's just poor governance and poor problems all around.
Every single one of the things that's a problem in D.C. has been taken over by the extreme Marxist left. And they have, and I know a lot of people think Marxism is just an economic equation or an economic class. No. This is about cultural Marxism writ large. So homelessness. Well, you can't arrest people for criminal vagrancy, which is a law on the books. It is against the law to be a criminal vagrant. They are criminal vagrants. You can't arrest them because social justice and housing justice and economic justice and also they're probably homeless because of racial injustices as well. No, this is a drug, criminal, mental illness problem. I'm telling you right now, if anyone cannot afford a place to live in Washington, D.C., there is, in fact, either a government or private charitable shelter who will accommodate you. The people who are on the streets are there because they want to be on the streets, and the government will not clean them up because of justice.
Right. Yeah.
Move it on to crime. Wow, wait, we can't put somebody away for shoplifting for 3 years. No, because of justice. They're just shoplifting because they don't have economic opportunity. Justice gets in the way of enforcing the law. And again, these are laws that are on the books right now.
Right.
They're just choosing not to enforce. The school system is a mess. And they're not enforcing rules in schools. They're not holding children up to standards. They're not utilizing testing in any way. Why? Justice.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. They actually passed a law 2 years ago where they will not prosecute people for jumping the fare at Metro to ride the trains, right? So why do you pay for the Metro if you ride the Metro? Honestly, why would you if they said
no?
There's no reason to. That's how Western civilization is supposed to work. So again, if you actually enforce the laws that are on the books in Washington, D.C., you would turn the city around within months.
Right.
They refuse to do it.
Well, that gives me an idea because when you look
Thank
at these
God,
cities...
you finally got an idea. Will you give this man a raise?
The light bulb pops up.
It's been 2 years since he had a unique idea. Daily Signal is really going to benefit from this moment. Here it comes.
We look at
what
D.C.
a jerk I am.
compared
we
to other
know
cities.
We're
good friends. It's all good.
Well, I wouldn't say we're good friends. I mean, I said we know each other. Let's not get carried away.
Overwhelmingly.
Yes.
But, so we look at D.C. as a city in a sea of leftist cities that has all these issues, but it's the nation's capital. This is not just a Portland, a Seattle, or a Los Angeles.
Right.
This is something unique.
Yeah.
What kind of message does that send when the nation's capital has all these horrible issues?
Well, I think we know. That's a rhetorical question, right? It does. It sends a horrible message. It sends a message that sort of, if I may say, trickles down to the rest of our nation.
Uh-oh, can't say that anymore.
But it does. It does. When people come from worldwide, and they listen. Let me temper it a little bit because I really do love Washington.
Yeah.
And by the way, I like calling it Washington because D.C. sounds like a federal government thing. It's Washington. It was named after George Washington, the greatest of all of us, right? Washington is a great town, and I hope and pray that most tourists who come to Washington, they stay in the federal corridor, they walk the mall, they see the money. It's like going to Disney World, right? You see the castle.
Just a couple more homeless people.
You see the fireworks, right? But don't go backstage, whatever you do, because, you don't want to see what Mickey looks like when the head comes off. Oh, God, did I just reveal a secret, by the way?
No.
That's not really a giant mouse walking
Sorry,
around.
kids.
Yeah, sorry. So, listen, there is part of D.C. that is worth visiting as a tourist, and you can actually have a pretty okay time and actually still feel that stirring in your heart and soul as you see these incredible monuments to a constitutional republic, the first constitutional republic, the last one standing at this point. And I think that that's still there, and I think that it's still worthy of holding on to. It's when we live here and have to actually deal with it all, I think that's where the message is really sort of, it taints those of us who are here, sadly, and that's why so many move out. I mean, how many people who call Washington home don't actually live in Washington? They live in Loudoun County, Virginia. They live in Fredericksburg,
Arlington.
Virginia. They drive in. Well, at least Arlington is within a train ride in, right?
Right.
Is that where you live, Arlington?
No, I actually live in the district.
Oh, yeah.
Which is fun.
You mean in Washington?
I do. I live in Washington.
Not in the district. See,
For
again,
sure.
that sounds dystopian. It sounds like it's Hunger Games. Actually, that's more accurate. You're right.
District,
it is the district.
District DC.
That's
anyway,
right. That's
for sure.
right.
Well, this was as fun as this is. Unfortunately, we do have to wrap. But
Why?
I appreciate.
Who's coming next? Who's the bigger name? Oh, I'm so sorry. There's a pillow manufacturer coming in. I apologize. I had no idea I was getting bumped for a bigger name.
That was Larry O'Connor, host of the Larry O'Connor Show on WMAL
Not that
Washington
pillow guy. It's a
DC.
totally different pillow guy.
Larry, thank you so much for your time.
Anytime.